Hello there, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is L24 World News, streaming live from the capital Algiers. And coming up next in our news program, a Trump-backed opponent defeated prominent Republican Congressman Liz Cheney in the midterm primary contest. South Korean Defense Ministry officials said neighboring North Korea fired 2 cruise missiles early Wednesday morning. Australia's former Prime Minister Scott Morrison defended his decision to secretly appoint himself into 5 key ministries. Days of widespread drug cartel, arson and shooting in 4 states last week have left Mexicans asking why the drug cartels exploded and what do they want. Hello again, I'm your host Abdurrahim Kashur, and those were today's top stories. First in our topic news, a Trump-backed opponent defeated prominent Republican Congressman Liz Cheney in the midterm primary contest. Cheney is perhaps most recognized for her participation on the Congressional Committee looking into the Capitol rights probe against U.S. former President Donald Trump. Islam Seed in this report.
In U.S. midterm primary, Trump-backed Republican Harry Higman beat Liz Cheney, who is seen as Trump's fiercest Republican adversary in Congress. According to Edison Research, Higman led the Republican field with 66.3% of the vote, followed by Cheney with 28.9%.
But I did not do this on my own. Obviously, we're all very grateful to President Trump, who recognizes that Wyoming has only 1 congressional representative, and we have to make it count.
Tonight, Harriet Hageman has received the most votes in this primary. She won. I called her to concede the race. This primary election is over, but now the real work begins.
Higman, natural resource attorney, vowed during her victory speech to carry on her path of protecting her environmental policies and thanked Republican members of Congress who supported her candidacy.
I have spent the last 25 years fighting to protect our water rights, our property rights, and our constitutional rights. I have taken on the EPA, the USDA, the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Forest Service, and I've won.
Despite her loss, which marks a significant victory for Trump, Cheney had no regret for not supporting Trump and promised to keep fighting for keeping him away from the Oval Office. Cheney's daughter, former Vice President Dick Cheney, has played a major role in the congressional probe of January 6 assault on the Capitol last year.
We must be very clear-eyed about the threat we face and about what is required to defeat it. I have said since January 6th that I will do whatever it takes to ensure Donald Trump is never again anywhere near the Oval Office, and I mean it.
Such victory is seen as the most recent sign of Trump's ongoing influence over the Republican Party. Trump, who is expected to run for president in 2024 election, prioritized ending Cheney's legislative career, among other 10 House Republicans targeted for supporting his impeachment in 2021.
In the same line of thought, Australia's former Prime Minister Scott Morrison defended his decision to secretly appoint himself in 5 key ministries during the pandemic and said he won't be resigning from federal parliament. 3 of the ministers said they were unaware Morrison shared power over their ministries until the revelations this week. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Morrison had attacked the Westminster system of government by secretly appointing himself to 5 portfolios, including Home Affairs, Treasury, Health, Finance and Resources between 2020 and 2021.
I believed it was necessary to have authority to have what were effectively emergency powers to exercise in extreme situations that would be unforeseen, that would enable me to act in the national interest.
Scott Morrison was evasive, he was defensive, he was passive-aggressive, and of course he was self-serving. so at least he was true to himself today. What we saw was all of his characters on full display, blaming everyone else, not accepting any responsibility.
To a different matter now, South Korean Defense Ministry officials said neighboring North Korea fired 2 cruise missiles early Wednesday morning from the coastal town of Oncheon in waters off its west coast. The latest launch comes as South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol called for diplomacy aimed at building sustainable peace between the rivals amid tensions over the North Acceleration Weapons Program. A senior UN official arrived in Myanmar on a rare visit on Tuesday that comes amid domestic political turmoil and fraying ties between Myanmar and the Southeast Asian neighbors. The United Nations said Hazer would focus on addressing the deteriorating situation and immediate concerns. Myanmar has been in chaos since the military overthrow and an elect government led by Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi early last year and launched a bloody crackdown on protests that followed. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, visited a Rohingya refugees camp on Tuesday as part of her 4-day visit to Bangladesh. Bachelet, and first UN human rights chief to make an official trip to the country. She was shown around the camp in Cox's Bazar by officials and also visited a food market for Rohingya refugees who had fled Myanmar. After the president of World Federation of Muslim Scholars, Ahmed Raisuni, sparked a wave of outrage in both Algeria and Mauritania, the Secretary General of the Federation of Muslim Scholars, Sheikh Dr. Ali Al-Wouradaghi, told the Algiers International Channel that Ahmed Raisuni will issue a statement apologizing to Algerian and Mauritanian peoples and confirming that he will not run for another term at the head of the union. Sheikh Ali Al-Wouradaghi revealed that Tuesday he held a meeting between the presidency and secretariats that dealt with this matter and pronunciation made by Raisuni. The Independent High Authority for Elections in Tunisia announced on Tuesday evening the adoption of the new draft constitution with 94.6% of the votes after the judiciary rejected all appeals against the result of the referendum that was organized on the 25th of July.
The number of votes in the case of each choice. The choice for the yes reached 2,607,884 votes, with a percentage of 94.6% of the votes. The choice for the no reached 148,623, with a level of 5.4%. The new constitution of the Republic of Tunisia comes into force from the date of the announcement of the final results by the Independent High Authority for the Elections, of its promulgation by the President, and of its publication in the official journal.
Palestinians gathered during a protest at Fallujah cemetery in Jubalia or northern Gaza Strip, while 5 kids, including 4 from the same family, were killed in the latest exchange in the conflict between Zionists and Palestinians before the ceasefire.
They were sitting there, and they were targeted by Zionist enemy planes. We hold the Zionist enemy fully responsible for initiating this event, and we have learned of their tragic deaths. We call on the European Union and the International Criminal Court to punish this enemy, as this is neither the first nor the last crime.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas expressed no regret for the deadly attack by Palestinian militants on Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics a half century ago, countering that Israel had committed 50 holocausts against Palestinians over the years.
In 1947 to the present day, Israel has committed 50 massacres in Palestinian villages and cities, in Deir Yassin, Tantura, Kafr Qasim and many others. 50 massacres, 50 holocausts, and until today, and every day there are casualties killed by the Israeli military. Our request is to say enough, come towards peace.
50 مذبحة 50 هولوكوست وإلى الآن.
Lebanon's presidential headquarters witnessed the third meeting between Lebanese President Michel Aoun and the head of the government, Najib Mikati, since the latter was tasked with forming a government on the 23rd June, after the interruption of direct government consultations between them since early last month.
في 29 حزيران الماضي تقدمت من فخامة الرئيس.
On the 29th June, I submitted to the President a plan to form a new government, and today we had a discussion on the proposed plan, and discussions will continue. I can say that we have similar views.
بقدر أقول كانت متقاربة. شكرا.
Opening the Russian-Ukraine fire, Russian forces have continued to attack multiple Ukrainian military targets with high-precision weapons. Russian Defense Ministry said in a daily news release on Tuesday that the Russian aerospace forces use high-precision weapons to hit the command and observation post of the 3rd Battalion of the 46th Air Mobility Brigade of Ukrainian Army in Kherson Oblast, as well as a temporary deployment point of the brigade. Inflation in the United Kingdom hit a new 40-year high last month, rising above 10% for the first time since 1982. Consumer price inflation, driven by higher food prices, rose from 9.4% in June to its highest level in more than 4 decades. Millions of British households will struggle with the higher bills, and supermarkets already report customers switching to cheaper brands. Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga rejected as null and void the result of an August 9th presidential election. He was declared to have lost, adding on Tuesday that Kenya's democracy faces a long legal crisis. His first comments on the result came after 4 of all the 7 election commissioners said they stood by their decision a day earlier to disown figures announced by Electoral Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati.
Our view in Azimio is clear. The figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void. I repeat, the figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void and must be quashed by a court of law. In our view, there is neither a legally and validly declared winner nor a president-elect.
The long-awaited results of presidential election in Kenya have been announced on Monday. The result has not seen an absolute agreement by the Kenyan people, as opposition leaders allege that election has seen fraud.
Kenya's Electoral Commission chairman has declared Deputy President William Ruto the winner of the close presidential election over 5-time contender Raila Odinga, a triumph for the man who shook up politics by appealing to struggling Kenyans on economic terms and not on traditional ethnic ones.
I, Wafula Chebukati, chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei of ID number 6847208 has been duly elected as the president.
Supporters of Deputy President William Ruto celebrated in the streets after the declaration of their candidate as president. Ruto won the electoral race by receiving 50.48% of the vote. while his rival Odinga received 48.85%.
The reason as to why I believe in William Ruto is because he believes in the hustler nation. Hustler nation means everybody in his own hustle, in his own small business. He believes even in the wheelbarrow economy.
The election results of the country have not been as quiet and straight. A number of people did not accept the result of the final phase of election. 4 of the 7 electoral commissioners of Kenya's presidential election stated that they could not support the ambiguous nature of the final phase of the vote verification process.
We are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the results is going to be announced because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled.
Opposition leaders and rivals of Ruto explained that their system was penetrated and hacked, and some of the Electoral Commission officials committed electoral offenses, and some of them had to have been arrested.
We have intelligence and reports that their system was penetrated and hacked, and that some of the IEBC officials actually committed electoral offenses, and some of them ought to have been arrested if they were not arrested.
While Ruto supporters celebrated the win, other supporters of Odinga erupted the streets of the country, showing the wrath and refusal of the results. This triggered riot police forces to fire tear gas to disperse the crowds who blocked the roads with burning tires.
The European Union and the United States said on Tuesday they were studying Iran's response to what the EU has called its final proposal to save the 2015 nuclear deal, after Tehran called on Washington to show flexibility.
At this point, everybody is studying the response, and this is not the time for the moment to speculate on timing or whatever. I want to stress again that it arrived only last night, and the way forward is basically for all the participants to look at it, for the US to look at it, and that's what I can tell you at this point.
So the big issues have been discussed. They have been tabled. We believe they have been largely settled. There would be no greater challenge to our foreign policy, to our national security, to the collective security of the international community should Iran acquire a nuclear weapon.
The statistical background of this Iran nuclear deal is like follows. Iran signed the agreement in 2015. It was designed to limit to Tehran nuclear ambition in exchange for sanctions relief. But in May 2018, then President Donald Trump withdrew, the US began reimposing sanctions. A year later on, Iran started ramping up its nuclear program. It reduced access to monitors from the United Nations Nuclear Watch, increasing tension with US. Fourth, negotiations resumed in April last year under Biden administration, and the European Union put forward what it called the final checks, urging all sides to sign onto the deal. President Joe Biden signed Democrats' landmark climate change and health care bill into law on Tuesday, as he aims to boost his party's standing with voters before the midterm elections.
There you go. It's now law.
US President Joe Biden signed into law his sweeping climate and health investment plan on Tuesday, bringing his Democratic camp a major political victory less than 3 months from crucial legislative elections.
With this law, the American people won and the special interests lost. Today offers further proof that the soul of America is vibrant, the future of America is bright, and the promise of America is real and just beginning.
The biggest investment in the United States in the fight against climate change, the text provides for a series of financial incentives intended to move the American economy towards renewable energies, limits the price of certain drugs, and create a tax rate minimum on large companies.
The motion is adopted.
The results of a difficult negotiations with the right wing of Democratic Party. The envelope includes the largest investment ever made in the United States for the climate, $370 billion to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030.
This is a great day because this is a balanced bill. And the reason my father used to say the road to success is always under construction. This one had a few more potholes than most, and it took a while to get there.
Madam Speaker, to the gentleman from Texas.
Republicans oppose the legislation, warning that it will kill jobs by raising corporate tax bills, further fuel inflation with government spending, and inhibit the development of new drugs. It's a major legislative victory for the White House, and Democrats are hoping popular provision in this bill will resonate with voters ahead of November's midterm elections. Midterm elections have long punished the president and party in power. Rising inflation has in the past amplified this trend, and inflation this year hit the highest rates in 40 years.
To the American Latin days of widespread drug cartel arson and shootings in 4 states last week have left Mexicans asking why the drug cartels exploded and what do they want. The attacks killed 11 people, including a young boy and 4 radio station employees who were randomly shot on the streets of the border city of Ciudad Juárez across the former El Paso, Texas on Thursday.
We are in the 3rd working day after this situation, and we are adjusting to it. As a society, it is clear to me that the pain is huge, that the uncertainty is tremendous, and there is this fear of going out. The streets are empty.
And for more international news, let's follow this roundup.
Californians baked in a heat wave with temperatures soaring above 37 degrees Celsius in parts of the state. The heat wave comes as the U.S. West faces a 23-year mega drought, the worst on record in at least 1,200 years. Firefighters grappled with blazes in eastern Spain on Tuesday night, with residents being evacuated from the area. More than 248,000 hectares of land have burned in Spain this year due to the wildfires, according to the European Forest Fire Information System. More than 1,000 firefighters were fighting several active fronts of a wildfire in National Park in the Serra da Estrela region of Portugal, a protected nature area and UNESCO World Heritage Site that is thinly populated. Floods triggered by seasonal heavy rains in Sudan have killed more than 50 people and inundated over 8,170 homes since the rainy season started. The flooding and heavy rainfall inundated 16 government facilities and around 14 stores and damaged at least 540 acres of agricultural land across the country.
That's all what we have for now. For more updates, you can follow our social platform pages of our Facebook, YouTube, as well as Instagram. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.